Happy Labor Day. I'm Alex Bell, and this is To the Point, where we're going in depth on the issues that are affecting the lives of Northern Californians. And if you haven't caught on already, it's hot. We're facing heat of record-breaking proportions, and it could be looking like multiple days of this heat. Chief Meteorologist Monica Woods is here to fill us on everything that we need to know. Monica, what's the latest?
Well, the latest is we're going to extend this excessive heat warning now until Friday. Day by day, we continue to add just another day to this stretch of heat, and this extends all the way throughout the state, deep into Southern California, now even stretching over towards Nevada as well. To the coast, we have a heat advisory in place until Thursday, especially interior communities, 90s to 100s, with this classic setup, high pressure ridge, sinking, warming air, and just this dome of heat that we've been dealing with flex alerts continuing, conserving power from 4 to 9 p.m., warm overnight lows adding to the dangerous conditions, plus a spare the air day, ozone, and a bit of smoke as well. Now, in terms of our hourly temperatures, this is where it boils down to 70s to near 80 to start us off. By the time we get to noon, we're just shy of 100. We get into that excessive heat by 2 p.m. We're going to stay there until about 6 p.m. with temperatures still over 110. And we're not done there. Tomorrow, the peak heat. But again, this continues through Friday with temperatures from 105 to 111. These temperatures record setting. We hit all-time September record highs for Sacramento, downtown, Executive, Vacaville, Stockton, and Marysville. Alex.
All right, and this extreme heat is also increasing the risk for wildfire. This is video out of Siskiyou County today, where the Mill Fire has now killed 2 people. 2 women, ages 66 and 73, were found in the city of Weed. This fire has burned more than 4,000 acres since it started back on Friday, and crews have it about 40% contained. More than 100 homes are destroyed. A second fire in the area, named the Mountain Fire, is just continuing to grow. And CAL FIRE is sharing this message right here, saying with triple-digit temps breaking records this week, it is a scorcher and fire danger is extreme. Keyword being extreme. So do not be that person who starts a fire. Seriously, don't do it, folks. And California is facing an all-time high for electricity demand. Rolling outages are a real threat, and everyone is being asked to conserve energy. Luke Cleary is in Folsom with more on the situation.
Those late afternoon hours, the hottest part of the day, and boy, let me tell you, when you walk outside, it really is oppressive. But we are in the midst of another flex alert. That is when Cal ISO asks electricity customers to reduce their usage. That way it kind of reduces the strain on the entire electrical grid. And we're actually standing right in front of Cal ISO. That's the California Independent System Operator. Those are the people in charge of keeping our energy supply and demand in balance, and the ones who issue these flex alerts. Today we had an hour-long outage for SMUD customers in the Arden area for about 16,000 customers after a tree fell on a power line on Northrop. That is back online now. There was also a PG&E outage in Vacaville. That too is back online. We're continuing to follow these outages throughout our area, and we will have more for you on this tonight at 11 on Late News Tonight.
All right, Luke, thank you. We have now seen 6 straight days of flex alerts, as Luke just mentioned, and another one is on the way. It's understandable that some people just might be tired of being asked to conserve energy, but state energy officials say that these voluntary flex alerts have proven record of avoiding blackouts. So Becca Habegger is here with me now to talk about that. Becca, what are the numbers showing?
You know, Alex, I want to show you a screenshot that I just took here on my phone from the Cal ISO app. If we could roll that, it shows the demand that we have right now. That thick green line there, that is what we are using, the majority of the state as of 6:15. And I'm looking at my app right now. It looks like our capacity has gone up and our use has gone up as well since I took that screenshot. I think anyhow, the point is that red and black area, that's what we have left in reserves, is about just under 5,000 megawatts. Now look, if these numbers don't mean anything to you, that is fine. What you need to know is that with this little amount of reserve left, these flex alerts are so important. Literally every watt counts. Any bit that you can conserve can count toward keeping us from blackouts. Energy officials say your efforts during flex alerts are what keep us from straining the grid to the point of blackout.
We need to use every tool available to get even greater energy savings today and tomorrow as this extreme heat wave extends into the week. In fact, we need 2 to 3 times as much conservation as we've been experiencing to keep the power on with these historically high temperatures and demand.
And I want to be clear, the image that we were just showing, that green, once we get to the stripe lines and the black, I mean, we're in level 2 of level 3. Level 3 is blackout. That's the only other thing that we have.
Yeah, there are 3 levels of emergency. We were in level 1 this morning, level 2 just within the last hour. That basically means the state's going to be able to pull emergency reserves. They have reserves and emergency plans in place. But once we get to that level 3, that means that blackouts are either happening or imminent. So that's why
possible.
It is possible,
Okay.
yes.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
And the last time that we saw energy demand like this was back in 2020 when we also had rolling power outages. What's changed since then?
Yeah, so essentially since 2020, the governor and the state have brought online an additional 4 megawatts to the power grid through renewable energy sources, an additional 2,000 megawatts in emergency reserves. But tomorrow's forecast is 51,000, a little over that. That would break a 25-year record. The last one was 2006, a little over 50,000. So, and look where we are now in terms of nearing, we're at emergency level 2, and it's not even the hottest day yet. So that is why these flex alerts are so important. If everyone can just do their part, maybe we can avoid some
We can keep the
blackouts.
lights on.
We can keep the lights on. That's so important.
All right, Becca, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We are all doing what we can to make sure that the state's energy grid doesn't fail. So we were curious to find out how you're conserving energy at home during this heat. Anna said that she did all of her chores early this morning. She's running the AC and watching TV. Hopefully she's watching to the point. And she prepared her food for the next few days so that she doesn't have to cook. Very smart move. Nita is doing her laundry before the flex alert kicks in. Phil's not doing much more than the usual to save money, but he did get to his laundry early in the day. Lynn decided that she just wanted to jump ship and move out of California. And then Ron is using his neighbor's electricity and drinking lots of beer. So let us know what you're doing to cut back on your energy usage. All you have to do is just shoot us an email to thepoint@abc10.com. And Governor Newsom made history this Labor Day. He signed the fast food workers bill into law. We'll explain the impact this has after the break. Governor Gavin Newsom signed the Fast Recovery Act into law this morning. It will reshape the fast food industry in California. The new law gives fast food workers a say at setting minimum wages, safety standards, benefits, and much more. So Van Tu is with us now. Van, what is the significance of the governor signing it, especially on today?
Yeah, well, today is Labor Day, so it is really symbolic that he signed this piece of legislation, AB 257, on today of all days. So, of course, a little bit of history behind Labor Day. It was unofficially celebrated by labor activists in the early 1800s, and they were really fighting for fair working conditions. So the one that we all really know today is the 8-hour work day. So that's what we do know. So fast forward to today in California with AB 257 being signed by Governor Gavin Newsom. It really is a victory for fast food workers, not only because this bill had died in the legislature last year and then made it to the governor's desk with his signature this year. It is also a victory 10 years in the making. So fast food workers have been fighting for these powers since 2012. And if you remember, Alex, that was back in New York City. Hundreds of fast food workers walked off the job demanding $15 an hour. So that was the birth of the Fight for 15 movement. And that has roots in this legislation that was passed today. And some policy experts say that this is really probably the most significant piece of labor law that has passed in generations.
Has the potential to transform fast food industry, the quintessential low wage industry, into a job with good wages and benefits and decent work and dignity. But it also shows a path forward for other similar low wage industries.
So it sounds like this could have impacts in other states outside of California, too.
Yeah, definitely. Not only outside of the state, but different industries as well. So it's not just fast food workers. So the man you just heard from was David Madlin. He is from the Center for American Progress, and he says this law really sets the table for these changes to happen through its sectorial approach. So it forms a council of not just only government regulators and industry representatives, but also the franchisees and the workers are coming to the table as well to come up with these standards within their industry.
And what about the flip side? What do opponents have to say about this?
Of course, there are opponents, and that includes the Center for the California Chamber of Commerce, and they say really that this law gives unprecedented authority for people to kind of, in their opinion, bypass laws and regulations. So they're very unhappy about this.
All right, Pam, we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
After the break, there is a catastrophic shortage of teachers in this country. All week, we are taking a closer look at why. There is a catastrophic shortage of teachers in the United States. Nationally, there are more than 280,000 fewer public school teachers than at the start of the pandemic, according to federal data. And the California School Board Association told us that the state needs roughly 100,000 more teachers to provide high-quality education for students. And multiple states, California included, are easing requirements for teachers in the classroom. Over the course of this week, we are speaking with teachers and experts asking, why is there a growing teacher shortage? What's changed in the classroom since the pandemic? And what's being done to remedy the problems? Diana Lambert, the senior education reporter at EdSource, which is an independent nonprofit organization that specifically focuses on education in California. She explains the bigger picture.
There's definitely a teacher shortage. There's been a teacher shortage in California for years. It has really impacted science, math, special education, and often, English learners mostly in the past. But now it's so bad in some districts that it just really goes across the board: English, social studies, all different topics. It's always been like this, except that now it's worse. And that's because of the pandemic. The rural areas are definitely the hardest hit. For example, Konocti Unified up in Lake County has about 50% of its teachers working on an emergency credential who aren't fully prepared to teach the courses they're teaching. And last year they started the year short 12 teachers, even with those 50% of the teachers underprepared. So that's because when the rural areas are hard, your pool of teachers, people who are qualified to be teachers, is small. And it's hard to recruit people to that place. What they have done though, and that's really interesting thing I think, is they've turned to Montana. So they go to Montana and they go to teacher fairs in Montana, trying to attract teachers from that state here. The reason being that Montana has there aren't very many jobs for teachers in Montana. And they figure that Lake County's similar. It's rural. It has a lot of outdoor activities. They try to attract those teachers there, and a good portion of their teachers are from Montana.
So why are teachers so hard to hire and retain right now? I asked two teachers over at Roseville Unified. It's a more affluent school district, which officials told me they are also experiencing the pressures of smaller candidate pools. The teachers I spoke to have decades of experience in the classroom and tell me it wasn't until recently that they feel that they didn't have to worry about living paycheck to paycheck. They say teachers are not paid enough, and it's just one of the issues that's keeping other people from getting into the profession.
I teach freshman English 3 days away from the end of my 28th year.
I teach AP Psychology, and I've done 30 years in the state of California.
Socioeconomic status.
It was the one profession that I swore I was never going to do. Both of my parents were teachers, and all of my aunts and uncles were teachers, and everyone assumed I was going to be a teacher, and I said, no, I'm not going to do it.
Both my parents were teachers. My dad taught at Sac City College. My mom taught first grade, so I saw both ends of the spectrum growing up. So I was not going to teach. That was not going to happen. I saw how hard they worked. You know you don't make a lot of money. The salaries are public. It's not a secret. I started in Sac City Unified teaching at like $22,000 a year. Like, new teachers were not paid well at all.
Yes, I'm listening.
I taught summer school for 7 weeks. I made $3,000. I thought I was so rich. I taught from 8 to 12 and made $3 grand in 7 weeks. And then waited tables at night.
When I started teaching, it was really rough, and getting the first paychecks and hardly anything coming home, and finding out how much goes to the pension plan, and having teachers who are veterans coming and saying, you got to start your 403B now, your tax shelter, you've got to start that now because you have to build it up for retirement, because the retirement's not going to be enough, and I have no extra money. I have nothing I can put in there.
Let's hit the history books for a minute to help talk about teacher pay. Up until the mid-1800s, teachers were almost entirely men. The country's modern public school system was born, more women also began to teach. By the 1880s, women made up a majority, 63%, of all the country's teachers. The gender divide grew. The most recent federal data shows that of the country's public school teachers, 75% are women, 25% are men. The California School Board Association's chief information officer explains this is a factor when it comes to teacher pay.
I think there are a number of factors. Some of them are historical. If you want to go back several decades, teaching was traditionally considered women's work, and I think because of that, teachers have not been compensated properly or haven't been given the respect that a position of such importance deserves, and I think we see that still persisting to this day. More recently, we've seen some economic factors, particularly if you look at the Great Recession. During that period from 2008 to 2012, when school budgets were being slashed roughly 20% in California, school districts were forced to do a lot of layoffs, to do programmatic reductions, to cut back on services. That made the teaching profession a lot less attractive. The conditions were more difficult for teachers. You had aspiring teachers or people who were considering the field, looking at all those layoffs and saying, why would I want to go into that industry? And then you just also had the continuing factor of compensation. Some teachers had to give back salary. It was a very trying period. I think that scared a lot of people away from the education field.
There are a lot of people who will say, well, teachers have summers off and they've got all this extra time. But the reality is, especially when you're starting, you're taking classes constantly during summer because your salary is going to be based partly on how many units you have.
We get excited about a 2% raise and, at 50 something now, and I'm like, really? 2%? Mind you, we also get health care. We have great health care benefits, but salary-wise, no. We're still behind. I don't think you should be in your 50s to 56 before that happens, but that's part of this profession.
The main thing I've heard about teacher pay is that it's not enough for beginning teachers, that beginning teachers are really suffering.
What is an average salary in California for a teacher now?
Well, the average salary in California, and we're talking average, is $82,000 a year. Beginning teachers are averaging about $51,000 a year, and veteran teachers around $100,000 a year. Whether it's enough depends a lot on where you live, how expensive housing is where you live. Some districts don't pay 51 either, and they're in the 40s, right? It's really difficult for them, and they're paying off their student loans, et cetera, at that time. So that's really what I hear the most, is that pay isn't high enough, and that should be moved up in that first step of the salary schedule.
Teacher pay isn't the only reason why people are either not entering or leaving the profession altogether. Coming up tomorrow, we look at teaching since the pandemic started.
The job of teaching has become more complicated. We're also social workers in a lot of ways. We are mental health counselors to a certain extent.
Teachers in California, and I should probably only speak for myself, are tired between the political pressures and post-COVID. We were heroes for about 5 minutes, and then it was like, you can't pick your own books anymore.
Now, if you're a current or retired teacher, let us know what you think about teacher pay and how the landscape of teaching has just changed in general. Reach out to me and the team at tothepoint@abc10.com. Well, it was insanely hot today. Many places easily broke 110 degrees, and today we found out it's hot enough to bake cookies in a car. So this was the talk of the newsroom today. We set up a cookie cam and live streamed the process. We started baking at noon and then went all the way to 6 o'clock, and then we got these golden brown cookies. Our thermometer, though, read a high of 200 degrees. You can check out the results on our Facebook page. Mariah has the cookies here now. Mariah, are you going to try one? There's a lot of things I would do.
Yeah,
eating a cookie baked in a car.
It's crispy.
Yeah, they're definitely cooked. You can see, they're crunchy. I don't know if we should eat them though. Probably not the best. But on a serious note, this is a science experiment that we wanted to try. But take care of yourself. Make sure you check the back seat. Don't leave anyone in there. And make sure that you call and check on people. Have a great night.
Gotta run for shelter.